Hey guys, welcome back to episode 3 of the show. I'm one of your hosts, AJ Long, and we were going to be joined by KJ this week. However, his girlfriend did go into labor, and she is in the process of giving birth to their daughter, and so obviously he will not be here this week. But we missed last week, had technical issues early this week, and so now let's cover the Whitehall 7-on-7. We're also going to cover the top performers from the Whitehall 7-on-7 and the top 8 the top 8 returning players in the area as of right now walking into the preseason. And so Whitehall 7-on-7, let's talk about it. Overall winners of the event, Central Catholic. As many of us expected, on their team, they probably have the most kids that play 7-on-7 and understand the structure of it and how long the days are and what's needed to be successful. But they looked really good offensively, defensively. They had 2 really close games with Whitehall, which were a lot of fun to watch. And aside from that, there wasn't a game out far from those 2 that was close. And this is, we're talking about this is in July. They have the rest of July, or so a week or so, all of August, and then the season's here. So no telling what that team can look like come season. North Schuylkill, who was the runner-up, shocked me. They managed to beat a Jersey Shore team that was really good. Didn't get to watch all of that game, but that game started with fireworks where North Schuylkill's first 4 passes, where each one played touchdowns from the 40, where they was just bomb after bomb after bomb. And I don't know what that game finished up, but being able to watch the early parts of that, I imagine that game was a lot of fireworks. Emmaus, they came into the year as our number 1 seeded team in the pre-rankings. They did a lot to hold up to that besides losing at the end of the tournament. I believe it was in the quarterfinals they lost to North Schuylkill. And North Schuylkill just got on a roll and they started going. But they look really good. They look like we would expect the Emmaus to look. They're big, they're athletic, they're fast, like we've said on previous episodes, and they came out and they proved it. Parkland is Parkland. We saw them at Saucon Valley. We're seeing them again here. They play a really clean and consistent brand of football. And we'll talk a little bit more about him later. But we've talked about him before. TJ Lawrence, he made it very clear that as a freshman, he is going to produce and he's going to make plays, and he did it all day for them. Notre Dame, a lot of people had a problem with them being in our preseason power rankings of the top 8 returning schools, and they played really well the entire course of the day. They beat Parkland, they beat Neshaminy, they tied with Newman Goretti, and then they get into the playoffs and they run through their first game. And had they not played Allentown Central Catholic, or had those 2 been on the opposite sides of the bracket, I believe that would have been, the championship game. Which, let me clarify earlier, Allentown Central Catholic and Notre Dame's game was also very close, came down to the last play of the game. Whitehall. The departure of Matt Seneca left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. I know for those kids, and a lot of people wondered, what is Whitehall going to be like this year? Are they going to be any good? Do they have talent? Do they have, what is it? Losing Nigel Linden, myself included, what are they going to look like? And boy, let me tell you, Trey Dog Manis, their receiver Jack, and the playmakers that they have outside between Caden Davis Latch and I'm forgetting their one receiver's name, I apologize, but they consistently made plays all day long. And like I said, their only 2 losses were to Allentown Central Catholic, both in 1-possession games. And so, those were our top 6 schools that we had outside of Jersey Shore, who we're not going to get to see a ton besides probably when they play executive in the middle of the season. But that is a well-oiled machine. Their head coach has that thing rolling, as he's done since his first year where he had them in the state championship. Likely going to be the matchup between them and Allentown Central Catholic when they both get to the postseason. But top performers from the event. And we're going to go from number 5, work our way up to the top. But mentioned him a little bit earlier. Coming in at the 5th spot of top performers, TJ Lawrence, class of 2027 at Parkland. Parkland didn't have Trey Trumbull. So Lawrence got a large share of the reps, and he did not disappoint. He averaged anywhere from 1 to 3 touchdowns a game. So on average, let's say he had 2 a game. And in their game against Jersey Shore, that was to get them to the semifinals. He had 3 touchdowns in the game that they eventually lost, but still, he came in, he performed really highly, both offensively and defensively, making plays, and just being the guy that we expected him to be. As you guys seen, he's the number 1 player that we have in the area for the 2027 class. He came in and he performed to that level, and even more so above that, being the youngest kid on the field. And so we're looking forward to watching what TJ does this season at Parkland, but this is a very good indicator that he's going to be and have a lot of production for them, especially once they get Trey Trumba back. And coming in at number 4, Josh Ludlow, Mr. Do-It-All at Notre Dame. Didn't get to watch him last season, but I got to see him at the Lehigh 7-on-7. I got to see him here, and this kid can play. And you, very, very unassuming. Not the biggest kid in the world, not the fastest kid in the world, but super competitive. He reminds me of somebody else that actually played for Phil. He was one of my receivers my freshman year, in George D'Alessandro. Very scrappy, extremely competitive, makes contested catches, has no problem catching the ball in traffic. Defensively, he wants to play whoever their best player is, and he wants to lock them up. But he performed tremendously throughout the course of the day. In their game against Central Catholic, he made tough catch after tough catch after tough catch, just helping them get down the field and put them in positions to win the game. And at the end of that game, it's him against DJ Kelly, who we'll talk about on this list. And it's just best on best, to win that game. And he was a lot of fun to watch. He played tremendously against Parkland yet again, running good routes, finding open spots, making plays on the ball, both offensively and defensively. Just a fantastic day for him. Somebody I've been waiting to see on the offensive side of the ball for the last 2 years now in Nasir McLean. He just picked up his offer from Brown last week, and then to turn around and but to have the day that he had at the Whitehall 7-on-7, it was great. Defensively, everybody knows don't throw the ball his way. There's a reason that over the course of his career he has 13 career interceptions. As a sophomore, he led the state in interceptions and was snubbed from the all-state list and the all-area list. But he did it offensively, he did it defensively. When they needed to play between him and DJ Kelly and their receiving core and their back end, they made plays all day. A lot of fun to watch. I look forward to him having a very big year, and hopefully, Central is using him on the offensive side of the ball, because he proved, just give the ball in his hands and he's going to make a play. He ran by guys defensively to make huge plays in games when they needed it. Defensively, like I said, everybody knows not to throw at him. You don't do it. A lot of people didn't try him. When they did, he was there breaking up passes, getting some picks. All in all, really strong day for McLean. Coming in the number 2 spot is the freak from Emmaus, Rafael Torrero. Coming in at 6'4", 210. You see kids like that, and you're just like, okay, they have the size, but can they play? He came to absolutely play. He put on a show in the Sweet 16, I believe it was, against Neshaminy. Their team needed big plays offensively, and he came through time after time after time after time, having a really nasty one-handed catch in the back of the end zone, where he was almost able to get his feet down, but just have the presence of mind and the length to be able to go up and get a ball that was probably thrown about 11 feet in the air. Like, he was up there to go get that one. Offensively, defensively, teams really didn't try his side of the field all that much. But yet again, a really good day for Raf. Expecting a really big year out of him, especially after what he managed to do at the Whitehall 7-on-7. And coming in at number 1, DJ Kelly. We've talked about him a little bit, but not nearly the amount that we feel that we're going to as this season unfolds. He was an absolute monster for Allentown Central Catholic. Led their team in touchdowns, led their team in interceptions. Just like I said, if there was a play that needed to be made, he made it. Against Whitehall, he had an interception in both games to help seal those wins. In the championship game, he had made big catch after big catch, having touchdown catches, just overall dominating anybody that he comes across. We expect him to have offers coming in, rolling in, whether it be preseason all the way through the season. DJ is arguably one of the best players in the area, and he's going to make a case for best player in the area if he continues to play the way that he's been playing this past month and over and into the season. And so those are our top 5 performers as far as athletes. Those guys, like I said, they came in, they made big play after big play for their team, and just overall super consistent and a lot of fun to watch. Now, there's 2 kids that couldn't be left out of the conversation that we're having now. They didn't get into the top 5 because those 5 just hands down outplayed everybody else. But they are worth mentioning because of the fact of how dominant that they also were during the course of the day. First one being Ben Jones from Emmaus. He had 13 touchdowns in the day. In that Neshaminy game, end of the game, I think it's 5th overtime. At this point now they're double teaming Torero. He makes a huge catch in the front right pylon to win the game for him. He made catches like that all day. Obviously, he scored 13 touchdowns in 7 games. You're averaging 2 touchdowns a game. Kid was balling. So I wanted to make sure we gave him his flowers and the credibility and that he's earned from having that sort of day. And then the other one is Jack from Whitehall. He is somebody that is going to sleep on a lot of teams, or maybe he has slept on a lot of teams early. Don't sleep on him. He has made freakish catches over and over and over again. Their game against Newman Goretti, they didn't have their best playmakers, but they still had guys that have offers. They have, whether it be Power 5, mid-major, and he was out there playing like a grown man, making tough catches over the middle of the field, running by guys, defensively getting his hands on people, making plays on the ball. And so, another guy that we're really looking forward to, seeing what he does this year over there in Whitehall. So 2 of you, also great weekend, a lot of fun. We're looking forward to watching you guys this season. Now, let's get to the most important position on the field, and that is the quarterbacks. Top 5 quarterbacks from the event that we had, getting to watch. Obviously, a 7-on-7. Everything, you live or die by how your quarterback plays. And these 5 guys played really well throughout the course of the day, giving their teams chances to win it all in the end. Coming in at number 5, we got Danny Darno at Notre Dame. Returning his entire receiving core, you can tell that they had the timing. He knows where guys are supposed to be. He delivered accurate passes. He was consistent from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And like I said, if them and Central were on opposite sides of the bracket, I firmly believe that that's what our championship game would have been. He was surgical in that offense, and as expected, he's been a starter now for Phil for, I believe, the last 2 seasons, going into his 3rd year now. And just overall, really good command, really good rapport with his guys, and did a really good job. Looking forward to seeing what he does this year with that group. Coming in at number 4, Josiah Williams. We've talked about him before. We talked about him when he was at the Saucon Valley 7-on-7. Talking about him again. Big arm, strong kid, delivers a really nice ball. He had a really good day between getting the ball to Rafael Terrero, getting the ball to Ben Jones and their other playmakers, Riley Guthrie and whatnot. He was consistent, he was accurate, and overall, it's a long day. Emmaus just seemed tired after their 5 overtime game against Neshaminy to turn around and have to play, I don't want to say a fresh, but a fresher North Schuylkill team. All in all, like I said, he was really consistent, really accurate, getting the ball to his playmakers. So another really good day from Josiah Williams over there at Emmaus. Coming in at number 3, Luke Spang. Led his team all the way to the quarterfinals, where they eventually lost to Jersey Shore. But yeah, again, another really consistent day. Getting the ball to getting the ball to TJ Lawrence, getting the ball to Sanchez, getting the ball to his other playmakers out in space. Very accurate, very poised, and you can tell that this is a guy that has played a lot of football for them. He understands what Kanane wants him to do. He understands what his reads are. Now it's just a matter of getting the timing down with those guys as they get closer and closer to the season. And he did all this without Trey Tremble, who's their best player without a shadow of a doubt. So all in all, really good day for them. Looking forward to seeing what they do moving closer to the season. Coming in at number 2, recent transfer at Allentown Central Catholic. I know on the post that we said that he was perfect on the day. He owned up to it and said that there was one incompletion that he did have over the course of the day. So finishing a total of 36 for 37, Antonio Fontanez. As for a kid that's only been there a few weeks, you really wouldn't have known. He did a fantastic job getting the ball to the right guys at the right time. One of our favorite plays one of our favorite sequences was later in the game. Whitehall needed to score. He threw a touchdown. It got called back. So replaying the down, very next play, touchdown. Didn't bat an eye, didn't lose it, didn't phase him. Came back, just scored, did his job, walked off. Didn't get a ton of reps when it came to the playoffs. As I said, he's only been there for a few weeks, and so they went with their guy, their what we all know is their current starter in Kyle Fleshman, who had a really good day as well. He just didn't, in our opinion, didn't outperform any of these guys. But Fontanez did a really good job when he was called to do what he was supposed to do. Didn't turn the ball over, completed passes, was extremely accurate, got the ball to his playmakers in rhythm, in timing, and allowed their offense to be extremely successful. We've said it before. We'll see what happens when the pads come on. I think really highly of the kid. I think that he has a tremendous amount of talent, but obviously this is a completely different monster. You're going in with a guy that is supposed to be the expected starter, and so we'll see what happens. But either way, that 7-on-7 was almost perfect. And coming in at number 1 from Whitehall, Trey Dogmanis. Aside from playing Allentown Central Catholic, and even when they did play him -2 throws, the kid was absolutely lights out. The returning starter there of the 5A district champs, you can tell that he has been working all offseason on making sure that with the new system, him and his receivers are on the same page. He has worked, and he has been extremely accurate. He is a great leader. The only thing I wish that was different with Dogmanis is that he didn't cut his hair. He needs to get the flow back, in my personal opinion. But aside from that, I'm really excited to see what he does over there at Whitehall. I'm excited to see what Whitehall does in general. But he is definitely leading that charge, and he's going to put them in position to win a lot of football games this year with what it is that they've done and what that staff is doing, since the recent hire of their new head coach. All in all, these 5 played really well. Looking forward to watching all 5 of them this year and seeing what they do. But yeah, that is the Whitehall 7-on-7 wrap up in a nutshell. A lot of really good teams, a lot of really good players, a lot of really good athletes, a lot to watch. First time we got to see Easton, they were really banged up. They didn't have a lot of guys that were playing, and so don't want to say too much on them too early until we get another chance to watch them as we get closer to the season. And so, Catasauqua, Allen, Palisades, all those schools were there, but yet again, first time seeing them. Don't want to put the cart before the horse and say things that may or may not be true. This is 7-on-7, and for a lot of those schools, Palisades runs the ball. Catasauqua runs the ball. Allen, new head coach, no idea really what they're going to do, so we're going to find out later. They had a 7-on-7 with executive, and so obviously you can tell that they're gearing up possibly to throw the ball, but you never know. All in all, really good day. Got to watch a lot of football, a lot of schools, a lot of talent. And so excited about that. But now let's get into what has probably caused the most controversy in the area, based off whether people feel like, oh, this kid should be on this list or this kid shouldn't be on this list, or how. And so let's walk ourselves through, or let's talk about the top 8 returning players that we have in the area from last season. Yet again, like we're always going to do, we'll start at the bottom, we'll work our way to the top. Coming in at number 8 from executive education is Damon Young. How does Damon make the list? Well, last year at executive in the 2A district champs, they made it all the way, I believe it was the state semifinal or state quarterfinals. Young got better and better and better as the year progressed. Personally, he should have been their number, but besides Jameek Roman, it should have been Damon Young as their number 1 receiver, in my opinion. He had monster catches, averaging around 23 yards per catch. He scored on a fourth of his catches because of the fact that he really didn't play all that much. He was rotating in a group of receivers that, in our personal opinion, he shouldn't. But that didn't deter him. Catasauqua, playing the district title game, he gets a ball thrown to him deep down the right side, catches it, outruns the defender, scores. They get into the state playoff, has 2 touchdown game. Then he gets to the next round, another touchdown. On top of that, he's 6'4", 180 pounds. The kid can flat out play, and if you've seen him this offseason, he's only gotten better. He's only gotten faster. They're 7-on-7 versus Allen. He had 3 monster catches, 1 diving catch in the end zone that was absolutely ridiculous. Defensively, he had 2 interceptions. Like, the kid is going to make a lot of noise, and if Eric Soto and their quarterback Chris Cruz can get him the ball, he might lead the area in yards and touchdowns ahead of guys like Jarrell Calhoun, ahead of guys like Mason Keener, ahead of guys like DJ Kelly, ahead of guys like Rafael Torrero. He could have a monster year if they allow him to go out and just play. And so, Boog, after last year, finished the year strongly, had about 500 yards, had 9 touchdowns, and overall a really good year for a high school receiver, but not at all what it is that we see that he is capable of doing. Coming in at number 7 from Allentown Central Catholic, Raheem Battle. Arguably the widest player in the EPC. Battle measuring in at 6'2.5", 6'3", 315 pounds. I mean, he is a space eater on the defensive line. Coming in, he started since his freshman year next to LaVon Johnson. Since then, it's been his show in the middle. He has had a good amount of success in the interior of that front. With what Allentown Central Catholic has coming back again defensively, between him, Raj, and Harry, teams, you can try to double team him, but it's not going to be to your advantage. Also, on top of that, you can double team him, but how many teams have linemen big enough to block that in general? Doesn't matter whether you have one, doesn't matter whether you have two. He's still bigger than both of them. He's still stronger than both of them. And he's extremely athletic. We've watched him as he's grown up. He grew up playing flag football. He's a big kid that can move, that has athleticism, is really explosive. So looking forward to seeing him have a big year, over there at Allentown Central Catholic, and being another reason why they make another run, in the state playoffs and at a state championship. Coming in at number 6 from Freedom, Tanner Wheeler, the younger brother of Tristan Wheeler, who's the All-American standout at Richmond University. He's coming in. He's only a junior, same as Brahim Battle. Both younger guys, both that are. He is extremely adept at finding the ball and making plays in the backfield, and capable of wreaking havoc on quarterbacks, coming from that DN spot, outside linebacker spot over there that they have at Freedom. You look out on the field, outside of Finn at Central Catholic, he's arguably the biggest interior guy that we have in the area. And yet again, expecting him to have a really big year. Last year as a sophomore, wasn't overly productive, but at the same time, at a point in the season, he was hurt. And so this year, we expect him to get back to what we saw of him growing up. We expect him to have just gotten better as he's gotten bigger, as he's gotten faster, as he's gotten stronger, as he's gotten the ability to hone in on his skills of being a havoc wreaker in the backfield. And so, looking forward to seeing what Wheeler does, looking forward to seeing what Roeder does with Wheeler to give him favorable matchups, especially as we're looking at some of the best interior line play, in the area. He's going to get to go against Sean Kinney. He's going to get to go against Ben Mercado. He's going to get to go against Finn at Central Catholic. He's going to get to play against other guys that are legitimately Division I offensive linemen, and so we're looking forward to watching those battles. Coming in at number 5, we talked about him in the 7-on-7 recap, Nasir McLean. Just picked up the Brown offer. Like I said, over the course of his career, he has 13 career interceptions. 2 years ago as a sophomore, he led the state in interceptions. Obviously, you follow that year up, not many people are going to throw the ball at you. And he's still finding ways to make plays. I think this year they're going to let him off the leash offensively a little bit more, which is only going to help that team, and it's also going to help him. But overall, a guy that has a lot of talent, and with picking up that Brown offer, you can expect probably the rest of the Ivy Leagues, as well as Lehigh, probably Lafayette, and a bunch of the Patriot League schools. And who's to say, he performs this year offensively and defensively, that we're not sitting here talking about some of the MAC schools like Ohio or Akron or Northern Illinois, like those schools jumping in on his recruitment, as he is an elite playmaker offensively and defensively. And so looking forward to another big year from Nas over there at Allentown Central Catholic. Now 3 and 4 can go either way, but coming in at the 4 spot, we have the JMU commit from Emmaus, Mario Landino. He was at the Whitehall 7-on-7, not performing, just there supporting his team, and he looks better this year than he did last year physically. Last year he was in opponents' backfields, constantly causing issues, constantly pressuring the quarterback, tackles for loss, sacks. And this year he looks physically more prepared to do it consistently week in and week out, and at a higher level than what he did before. For those of you that don't know about JMU football, they are a FCS national power. They are consistently competing for FCS national championships. They may or may not be FBS now or soon in the future, but he's going to one of the best programs in the country now. And so that tells you the talent that this young man has and what he has done over the course of his high school career, or more so last year, that a school like that is taking him or wants him. Him alongside Ben Mercado, along with Rafael Torrero, Ben Jones, over and Emmaus, Riley, but more so interiorly, they're going to cause havoc, and he is going to be a problem yet again. Just like we said for Tanner Wheeler, he's going to get to go against a bunch of guys that are Division I offensive linemen, whether it be FBS or FCS. And every day in practice, he's going against Ben Mercado, who's already committed to Sacred Heart. So you talk about iron sharpening iron there. They're both only getting better, which means that for other schools, you're gonna have a problem on your hands when it comes to having to deal with Landino coming this season. Coming in number 3, just edging out Landino, is Sean Kenny over at Nazareth. He has been dominant interiorly since his freshman year. And as he's gotten older, he has only gotten better. Really looking forward to what Kenny does this year. He's picked up a bunch of offers this offseason. Him and Keener just kind of racking them in over there at Nazareth. Expecting a lot from him over there, as he's going to be their anchor offensively. He's going to be there on their offensive line. He's going to be their anchor on the defensive line. I can't imagine if Sean Kenny committed to just playing football. As we all know, he's a state championship wrestler. He is one of the best heavyweights in the country. He's the best heavyweight in the state of Pennsylvania. But still, you wonder, what would he be like if he was able to focus, not all, but practically all of his time to just playing football and being as dominant in it as he possibly can. He's already ridiculously talented for what he is, and he's doing this essentially half the time. This year, expecting him to have another really big year over there in Nazareth, being the lead blocker for Marquise, Falzone, Mason, and those guys over there. But overall, looking forward to another really big year from Sean Kenny. Coming in at number 2, and this is a tight race between 1 and 2, between what these two guys have done, last year. But coming in at 2 at Parkland is Trey Trumba. Running for over 1,000 yards. Then he goes into track and field, and he's the 100-meter dash champ. People will say, oh, well, that's with an asterisk because some of the fastest guys. I don't care. Whoever ran. If you didn't run, I don't want to hear about it. He won districts in the 100. The kid is legitimately talented, to keep a guy like Marquise Wimberly, who now has picked up a Power 5 offer from West Virginia. He kept him in that 2 spot all year, never letting that up. And so, you're talking about, he might not have the top end speed of Wimberly, he might not have the potential of Wimberly, but he has produced, and he has produced at a high level over there in Parkland, especially when everybody knows that their offense runs through him. If Kanane is going to do anything, Kanane is going to run the ball. And Trey Trumba has answered that bell time and time again, which is why last year he ran for 1,200 yards. He had over 10 touchdowns. He has produced, and he's a threat in the passing game, as well as being one of their better defensive players. Like Keener, he's picked up over a dozen Division I offers. He's going to go to school for free. This year, yet again, expecting another big year from him, especially if he gets the help from guys like Sanchez, as well as their big 6'3" receiver, who his name is blanking on me right now, and TJ Lawrence. They have the ability to spread teams out and get the ball to other people. Expect Trumba to have another big year, even with everybody expecting him to touch the ball. And coming in at number 1 is the most explosive player in the area, in Mason Keener over at Nazareth. I don't know how many people watched him as a freshman when he played quarterback, but it was like everybody else was playing in slow motion and he was just at a different speed. And then his sophomore year, he came in and made a bunch of plays. And he was explosive and he was really high level. And then last year, he comes in and yet again, he's even more explosive. He had almost 1,000 yards receiving on about 60 catches. He had over 200 yards rushing on another 18 catches, or 18 carries. Then he returns punts, he returns kicks, he plays corner. Like, if there was a place for him to touch the ball and make a play, Keener is making it. And, you know, everybody says your best players make the biggest plays in the biggest games, and he has consistently done that time and time again. And you can ask Coach Mossman over at Parkland. He's the reason that Nazareth was able to pull that victory out last year when that game was a one-score game. Now, he is always going to be a threat. He is a home run hitter, and this year we expect nothing less. Now he's got another Division I guy across from him with Caleb Newsom coming back from the Petty School, and on top of already having Frankie Morose and Logan Halarsic, and they added Marquise Wimberly. That offense, you're not going to be able to double him because somebody else is liable to just explode on you if you do. So with Keener getting more matchups that are favorable to him, expect for teams to have a very, very hard time stopping him come this season. Now, those are our top 8 returning guys. Yet again, there are a bunch of guys that very well could be on this list. Like I mentioned, Marquise Wimberly already has a West Virginia offer. Just hasn't produced as much as the guys on this list, but once he does produce, and he will because of what Nazareth does with that offense and the playmakers he has around him, he's a guy that very easily will probably end up on this list come this time of season. DJ Kelly produced last year at Bethlehem Catholic. This year at Central, it doesn't look like he's going to slow down at all. So you have him. You have Rafael Torreira over Eddie Mays. You have Riley Guthrie over Eddie Mays. We didn't talk about Freedom skill guys, but yet again, that depends on who their quarterback is going to be. But you could say that Shakri Caldwell very well could be on this. Like, he could be on this list at the end of the year. Jarrell Calhoun could be on this list at the end of the year. There are so many guys this year in the Lehigh Valley that are extremely talented and have the potential to solidify themselves in District 11 history and also just as collegiate football players. But it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be a lot of fun to cover. I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody does. And we're a week and a half away from camp starting. We're 2.5 weeks away from scrimmages happening. We're a month away from the first game of the season. Football season is back, and this is going to get exciting. As we go through, next week we'll talk about the top guys that we have in the 2025 class, 2026 class, and 2027 class. And now that middle schools are starting, in that time youth football teams will be starting. We're still asking you guys to send in kids that, any kid. Just send in if it's, it doesn't matter if it's your son, a kid that you coach, a kid that's in your organization. But we're looking forward to spotlighting our youth athletes in the area and being able to talk about them as their season is starting and coming up. But all in all, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.